Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. While reading the comments on my previous videos, I just found a suggestion that really caught my attention. Someone suggested that I need to create a complete game development series and show the entire journey from idea to final game. I loved that idea. So that's exactly what we are doing in this series. Welcome to the episode 1 of brand new game development series, where I will be taking a game idea and turning it into a complete playable game in Unity. The game idea I have chosen is a first person stealth game. In this game, the player enters an indoor location that contains a locked treasure. The main objective of the game is to steal the treasure, but unlocking it won't be easy. To unlock the treasure, the player must collect all the keys hidden throughout the building. Some keys will be placed around the environment, while others will be carried by guards. This means the player will need to carefully explore the area, avoid danger, and collect every key before reaching the treasure. Since this is a stealth game, getting spotted by a guard means instant game over. Every movement matters and the player must think carefully before making a move. This game will also include a dangerous section where the player can fall. If that happens, the mission fails and the game is over. To make the game more interesting, I am planning to add 3 difficulty modes: easy mode, medium mode, hard mode. This video is all about the game and defining the core gameplay loop. Over the next episodes, we will build the prototype, create the first person controller and the key controlling mechanics, develop the guard AI, design the level, polish the game, and finally create a trailer for the completed project. My goal is to show the entire journey from a simple idea to a finished game. If you have any kind of suggestions, improvements, or features that you would like to see in the game, let me know in the comments below. Your ideas might become part of the project. This is only the beginning, and we still have a lot to build before this game becomes a reality. Hey everyone, welcome back. In the previous episode, we planned our first person stealth game and talked about the game idea. Now it's time to start building it. For this episode, I worked on the prototype of the game. At this stage, I am not focusing on assets or making the game look good. I just want to make sure the main mechanics are working before moving on. The first thing I worked on was the player movement. Since this is a first person stealth game, the player needs to move around and look around properly. So I created a basic first person controller. It's simple, but it gets the job done. After that, I started working on the enemy AI. For this, I used Unity's name mesh system. I created 2 points and made the enemy move between those points continuously. This gives the enemy a basic patrol behavior and helps me to test how the stealth gameplay will feel. Once that was working, I moved on to the player detection. To show the enemy's vision area, I used a spotlight. If the player enters the spotlight, the enemy detects the player and the game ends. Not gonna lie, I caught quite a few times while testing this, which is actually a good thing because it means the detection system is working. Now I have player movement, Namesh enemy patrol, spotlight vision, and player detection all working together. The game still looks very basic right now. There are no assets, no environment, no keys, and no treasure yet. But that's okay because the goal of a prototype is to test the mechanics first. And honestly, I am pretty happy with how it's coming along. In the next episode, we will start adding assets, creating the environment, placing enemies in the level, adding keys, and slowly turning this prototype into an actual game. If you have any ideas or suggestions for this game, let me know in the comments below. And thank you for watching episode 2. Hey everyone, welcome back. In the previous episode, we built the prototype for our stealth game. We added the player movement, enemy AI, enemy patrol, and player detection. The mechanics were working, but the game still looked like a prototype with cubes and a plain ground. So in this episode, my goal was to start turning that prototype into an actual game. The first thing I decided to change was the camera. In the beginning, I planned to make this as a first-person stealth game, but after testing the prototype for some time, I felt that a third-person camera would fit the game much better. It gives the player a better view of surroundings, and we can also see the character and animations while playing. So I changed the game from first person to third person, and honestly, I think this was the right decision. After changing the camera, I need a proper place for the game instead of the simple prototype scene. I switched to the Unity Asset Store and found an environment that matched the style I wanted. I imported it into the project and started setting up everything. The environment already made the game feel completely different. If you like this environment, I will leave the download link in the description so you can use it in your own projects. Now that I had the environment, the next step was adding the characters. For testing, I imported a basic player character and an enemy character. Then I downloaded the animations from Maximo and connected them in Unity. Right now, the characters and animations are not perfect. Sometimes they look a little weird and I still need to fix a few things. But that's completely normal during development and I will improve them in the coming episodes. Once the characters were ready, I started working on the key system. This time, instead of using spears, I added actual key models to the game. They already makes the gameplay look much better. If you would like to use the same key models, I will leave the download link in the description as well. While building the key system, I learned something new called scriptable objects. At first, I was little confused because this was my first time using them in real project. After watching a few tutorials testing different methods and making a few mistakes, I finally understand how they work. Instead of storing all the key information directly inside my scripts, I created scriptable objects to store the key data. I also separated them into door keys and treasure keys. This made the project much cleaner and much easier to manage, especially if I decide to add more keys later. After finishing the key system, I added the treasure chest. The treasure chest stays locked at the beginning of the game. The player first needs to collect all the required keys. Once all the keys are collected, the player can interact with the treasure chest. It opens and the mission is completed. This was one of the main ideas I talked about in the episode 1. So it felt really satisfying to finally see it working inside the game. After that, I added one more feature. Now, whenever the player defeats an enemy, the enemy plays a death animation before disappearing. It is a small detail, but it makes the game feel much better compared to the prototype. One thing I am really enjoying about this series is that I am learning something new in every episode. Sometimes things work on the first try, sometimes they don't. And sometimes I spend more time fixing my own mistakes than adding new features. But I guess that is just a part of game development. At this point, the game has changed a lot compared to the previous episode. We now have a proper environment, a third person player, enemy characters with animations, a working key system using scriptable objects, a treasure chest that unlocks after collecting all the keys, and enemy death animations. There is still a lot more work to do, but it's finally starting to look like a game I imagined in the very first episode. In the next episode, I will focus on finishing the remaining gameplay features, polishing the game, fixing the character animations, improving the overall experience, and getting everything ready before the final trailer. If you have any ideas or suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check the description if you want the environment or the key models I am using. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are doing great. Welcome back to another episode of my stealth game development series. In the previous episode, I transformed the prototype into a playable stealth game by adding the environment, player, enemies, animations, keys, and the treasure system. The game was finally playable, but after spending a lot of time testing it, I realized that there were still several things that needed improvement. Some mechanics didn't feel very satisfying, the camera had an annoying issue, the UI looked unfinished, and the game needed a little more polish to make it feel like a complete experience. So instead of adding a lot of new mechanics, I dedicated this episode entirely to improving the overall gameplay experience. The first thing I changed was the interaction system. Previously, collecting keys was completely automatic. As soon as the player entered the trigger collider, the key was collected. While it worked perfectly, it didn't really feel like the player was interacting with the object. So I replaced the trigger based interaction system with a raycast based interaction system. Now the player has to look directly at the key before interacting with it. This small change makes collecting keys feel much more intentional and gives the player better control throughout the game. It might seem like a minor improvement, but these small details make the gameplay feel much more polished. The next improvement was the player itself. The previous character was mainly used while building the prototype, so I replaced it with a character that fits the overall style of the environment. While testing the game, I also realized that the jump mechanic wasn't actually contributing to the gameplay. Since the main objective is to avoid enemies, collect all the keys, and unlock the treasure, there wasn't a single situation where jumping added anything meaningful. Instead of keeping a feature that wasn't useful, I removed it completely to keep the gameplay simple and focused. While testing these changes, I came across another issue that I really wanted to fix. Whenever the player walked close to a wall, the camera would clip straight through it. Sometimes the wall completely blocked the player's view, making the gameplay feel unpolished. To solve this, I implemented a camera collision system. Now, whenever an obstacle comes between the player and the camera smoothly moves closer instead of passing through the wall. As soon as the obstacle is gone, it smoothly returns to its original position. This is one of those improvements that players may not immediately notice, but it makes the overall gameplay feel much smoother. After fixing the camera, I wanted to make the game more replayable. Previously, every playthrough felt almost the same because the enemy behavior never changed. So I introduced three difficulty modes. The first one is practice mode. In this mode, there are no enemies at all. Player can freely explore the environment, understand the map, and learn where every key is located without worrying about getting caught. The second one is easy mode. Here, the enemies patrol along fixed routes, allowing players to observe their movement and carefully plan their path through the environment. Finally, I added hard mode. This mode contains four enemies patrolling around different parts of the environment. Making it much more challenging to collect every key without being detected. I think these different difficulty modes make the game enjoyable for both beginners and players looking for a bigger challenge. After finishing the gameplay improvements, I also wanted more people to be able to play the game. So I made sure the game works on both PC and mobile. The PC version uses keyboard and mouse controls, while the mobile version includes on screen touch controls. This means you can enjoy the same gameplay experience on whichever platform you prefer. Once the gameplay was in a good state, I moved on to improving the user interface. The previous UI was only a temporary placeholder. It was plain, simple, and only existed so I could test the mechanics. So I completely redesigned it. I added a proper menu, improved buttons, cleaner icons, better layouts, and an overall design that matches the theme of the game. All through, UI doesn't directly change the gameplay. It creates a much better first impression and makes the game feel significantly more polished. And improving the visuals, I focused on something that was missing throughout the project audio. Before this update, the game felt very quiet, so I started adding sound effects for almost every important interaction. The museum now has a background ambience, opening doors has its own sound effect, collecting keys has audio feedback, enemies play a sound when they detect the player, both the player and enemies have attack sounds, and finally opening the treasure chest also has its own sound effect. These sounds don't change the gameplay mechanics, but they make every interaction feel much more satisfying and bring the world to life. I also wanted to make enemy detection much cleaner. Instead of relying on audio, I added a visual effect using global volume. Now, whenever an enemy detects the player, the corners of the screen turn red, giving immediate visual feedback that you are in danger. It is a simple effect, but it makes a huge difference because players instantly know they have been spotted. After all these improvements, the game finally feels much closer to the vision I had when I started this project. The interaction systems feels more natural. The player fits the environment much better. The camera no longer clips through walls. The different difficulty modes add replay value. The game now supports both PC and mobile. The UI looks much cleaner. The sound effects make every interaction feel more immersive. And the visual feedback makes enemy detection much easier to understand. I am really happy with how much progress the game has made so far. But before calling it finished, I would have to hear your feedback. If you notice any bugs while watching this gameplay, let me know in the comments below. And if you have any suggestions or ideas that could make the gameplay even better, I would love to hear those as well. I have uploaded the latest version of the game to itch.io and you will find the link in the description below. And you don't need to download it, you can just play in online. Your feedback will help me improve the game before the final release. And if you found this video useful, just stay tuned to our channel. And thank you for watching and I will see you in the next episode.